Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to the Weekend Wellness Hour show. Today, we have a dear friend of mine on as a guest, Katie Carlson, who has amazing talents all over the place. I mean, she's a high energy expert. If you know her, you'll know that fits her to a T. She's a high performance coach, and she is an expert in the masculine and feminine. She's a speaker, she podcast host, and the founder of Heal. And what we need to talk about today, she's a human design specialist. So she will go through this process with us today that I'm not familiar with much at all. So we are going to rely on Katie to share. So thanks for having
Yay!
joining us today.
Yay! Thank you so much, Amy. I'm super excited to be here and talk all things human design.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, you haven't heard much about human design? Have you heard anything about human design, or is it just through kind of like my
Just through you and us chatting a little bit. So I have an inkling of someone else asking me my birth date once and wanting to, do something to tell me something about me.
Yeah.
So I think it was in my head once before, but I didn't do any research into it.
Okay, cool. Well, I love human design. I stumbled across human design. I want to say it was like couple of years ago. So I had been in the energy space, and energy is my shtick. I love energy. I love learning about energy. I love playing with energy, and I love like shifting energy and doing all of the things with energy. And so a couple of years ago, similar to you, someone had reached out to me and was like, and I'd gone to astrologists and different, folks, different types of intuitives, in my day. And I got introduced to human design. Someone was like, oh, you should look into this. Like, this is really interesting. And it's based on the time and place in which you were born and da, da, da. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I love learning, right? I'm a natural learner. I love exploring new, tools in the tool belt, right? And so I started looking at human design and understanding it. And here's the big piece of human design is if anybody can go pull a chart, anyone can go pull their chart. If you know what time you were born, you know what time, or where you were born and the time you were born, you can go pull your chart. Everybody can go do that.
Okay.
I caution you to do that though too, because once you do, you're gonna look at this and like they basically give you an output, and it's like, oh, there's two columns and like this thing in the middle that it's like a figure, and it's very confusing, and there's a lot of numbers and decimal points and then symbols, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And so I always it is. I was like, so it's all, I always tell people to definitely find someone, whether it's me or someone else, like find someone to discern your chart, because what happens is people will get overwhelmed by it, and then they'll just like let it go. And I don't know if that's a bad thing, but as much as I believe in human design and what it's done for me in my life and aligning my energy and supporting myself, moving through that energy in my life and in my business and my personal life in so many different capacities, it has been such a game changer. So I think it's probably best to just start off, okay, what is human design?
Exactly.
Okay, so what is human design? Mm-hmm. Human design is known as the science of differentiation and the mechanics of the Maya. Okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah,
exactly, right? And so to break it down is basically what it is it's a synthesis of ancient wisdom, the Kabbalah, the chakra system, the I Ching, and Western astrology. And what it does is it basically gives you an output of how you are genetically predispositioned, right, to show up energetically in the world. Okay. And this is based on the time and place in which you were born. Now, with that, you are not your chart. So anytime that you go and like, if you're pulling this and you're learning things about it, I always like to always have to have this little caveat is like, you are not your chart. This is just a representation of how your energy moves, how your energy flows, certain things that may show up for you. When I'm doing this with people, people literally will be like, oh my gosh, it's like you're speaking to my soul. Like, how did you know this? Like, this is so wild. This is so crazy. And And it's a really powerful tool. And here's the thing, it's a relatively new tool. It actually was downloaded by he was Ra Uru, which is he changed his name to this after he downloaded this back in 1987. So this is fairly new, like in the context of, when we look at ancient wisdom and astrology and that sort of thing, this is a fairly new tool. And I always like to say this, it is a tool. It's not the tool. I don't look at this as like, oh gosh, this is like the foundation of everything. It's something that works for me. It's been able to work for my clients, my groups, the people that I interact with on a daily basis. And it's a powerful tool when you work with it, as opposed to, against it. So human design at its core, right? Human design is core. There's I would say there's 5. I've changed that. There's 5 main types in human design. And I'm going to specifically kind of go through that overview, and then we'll talk about how this relates to you specifically in your chart, because this is really fun. I love going through people's charts. It's like magic. Okay. So there's 5 main types within human design. So in human design, the first type is what we call as a generator. I am a generator, and I'll just kind of give you a little tidbit. You are a generator as well. Generators have really big auras. We have really big auras. So people are naturally drawn into the generator energy. We are literally like the life force of humanity. We have so much energy, and it's because we have, and I have to get too detailed, it's because we have what we call as definition in our sacral center. Again, that's probably more detail than we need to at this point, but if you are going out and looking at your chart, like, well, I'm not a generator, I'm this and that, I'll explain what that means. But I say that generators, they have these like massive auras. People are naturally drawn into generators. We're the life force of humanity, kind of like we're like the worker bees, but it's worker bees and doing things that we love. Like we naturally recharge ourselves by being lit up by life. So it's really, really important for generators to love what they're doing. And generators can do things for long periods of time. Like they can literally get lost in their work or whatever they're doing if they really love doing it. And like an obscene amount of time can go by and they'll be like, oh, I forgot to eat. I forgot to do this. I didn't, because you're so ingrained in what you're doing. And when generators are lit up by life, like we light up the rest of humanity, because truly by us being lit up in this world, like we light other people, like other people then light up just as an effect of our energy and how our energy is coming out. It's really, really powerful. As such, all of the types have what we call a strategy. And as a generator, the strategy is to respond. So what that means is that we are literally here to respond to the things that come into our environment, right? In response to, what's showing up. That could be people, it could be circumstances, it could be opportunities, anything. Our sacral energy is a natural magnet that draws in certain energies, and it's up to us to then create that discernment from our strategy, right, to respond in that strategy. But we also have what's called an authority. And as a generator, you're going to have there's 2 different types of authorities that you could have. You could have an emotional authority, or you could be a sacral authority. And you're sacral, so you're like me. There's 2 different authorities, and this is how we're truly meant to make decisions. Okay, we're not meant to be mental. We're not meant to make decisions as humans in our head. Most people think that, oh yeah, we got to make decisions here. We're actually not. We're not wired to make decisions in our brain. We're actually like, our physical body will give us the response, right? Our bodies actually have the answers. And so what's interesting about that is within that authority, so the sacral authority, and I'll just use this as a specific example for you, the sacral authority, I'm a sacral authority as well. It's all about experiencing that gut response, right? It in your gut, you have that feeling of like, like that yes, it's like that unwavering yes or that unwavering no. And if you're unsure, it's likely a no. And so you'll feel it in your gut. Just to give you an example, the house that I'm speaking to you from right now, bought it 10 years ago, literally bought it over lunch. I walked in the door and I was like, yep, done. Like I knew it like right out of the gate. Like it was just like, I knew it. And I had the offer expire within 45 minutes. I literally closed 20 days later. Like it was quick, like a very, very quick process. But I knew it. And I had that, like that resounding yes. As a generator, so those sacral authorities are really, really important. As a generator, you can also be an emotional authority. And actually 50% of the population, regardless of your type in human design, is an emotional authority, which means if you have an emotional authority, you're meant to ride the emotional wave and then let the emotions settle, then make a decision. Whereas sacral generators, we are very much in the now. So, and it really helps with yes or no questions to listen to our sacral. So being asked yes or no questions is really powerful to get that like understanding of kind of what is serving you in that regard. That's the difference in kind of the authority. The emotional authority is meant to let the wave settle and then make a decision. Within the types, there's also what we have a signature, and that's the energy in which we're meant to, our energy is naturally in flow, is naturally in balance. And that's when generators are experiencing satisfaction. Okay. Satisfaction. It's that, feeling satiated, really feeling satisfied about things. And so when I always tell people, if you're a generator in this world, and I think it's like 30% of the population is generators. If you're a generator, it's really important to have a mantra that includes satisfaction and like how, like I wake up, motivated and I go to bed satisfied and I'm super satisfied throughout my day, and just like experiencing satisfaction actually draws the powerful energy, like the energy that we are choosing to us, which is really, really important. So like living that satisfaction is super, super important as a generator. We also have what's called a not self theme. And as a generator, not self theme are like, it's kind of our initial, like when our energy is out of alignment, our not self theme as generators is frustration. Doesn't mean we don't get angry or bitter or disappointed or go through the range of emotions. It's just the first initial response is frustration. When a generator is frustrated, does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So when a generator the energy is out of alignment, they will naturally get to frustration. And so when you know that, you can say, okay, let's get back. How can I get back, move back to satisfaction, right? Or being satisfied. Like, what is it going to take? And you can literally just like ask those questions and kind of propel you forward. So that makes sense. That
absolutely. Excuse me. Yes, absolutely. And resonates very much with how I perform, behave, all of that.
Yeah. Oh, wait till we get going. It's going to get even better. But before we do that, I want to go through the rest of the types at a very high level, and then we'll go through your chart. So the next type is what we call a manifestor. Now, manifestors. So remember I said generators have these like really, really big auras. Manifestors have what we call a repelling aura. So it's kind of like Moses and the Red Sea. It's I mean, like they have this ability to see things and just kind of like almost see through you. One of my very best friends is a manifestor, and for the longest time before we both got introduced to human design, I always felt this kind of like, there was this kind of like a little bit of repulsion that I felt from her, but I was like, it's fine, like whatever, I'll get over it, because I'm very adaptable and that's in my design. And at the same time, I was a little bit put off by it because I was like, this is a lot. And after a while, as I started to get to understand human design and understand like how manifestors are meant to show up in this world, now I look at it and I love it, because she has the ability to clear, like to basically reduce the noise, increase the signal, and clear the path for what's possible. Manifestors makes up about 10% of the population. So they're quite a bit less, but about 500, 600, 700 years ago, manifestors were ruling this planet when we had a bunch of rulers and emperors and a lot of dictatorships going on. Manifestors, but a lot of the Julius Caesars and the different emperors that we had back then, the pharaohs, like they were all manifestors, and manifestors are truly here. So I mentioned that generators are here to respond. Manifestors are here to initiate and inform. They're here to use their voice. They're here to they get these powerful downloads, and then they're meant to inform people about what's going on using their voice. And a lot of times what's really good, especially in business, is having manifestors in your corner, right? Or in your business. And then they give the idea, they inform, etc. And then the generators get to work. And it doesn't mean that like generators are like, oh, they have to be extending themselves. It's doing the work that they love. So if they don't love it and the generator is frustrated, it's time to get a new job or do something else. But it's really important to kind of understand the different dynamics there. So manifestors, they have that repelling aura. They're here to initiate and inform. And then their signature, so I mentioned the generator signature is satisfaction, all about being satisfied. Manifestors are here to experience peace. Their energy is in alignment when they're feeling that peace. Like they're just like super, super peaceful. What's interesting is, I'm just going to share this really quickly. Some of the famous manifestors that you may or may not know, George W. Bush, president, was a manifestor. Adolf Hitler was a manifestor. Jack Nicholson is a manifestor. Robert De Niro is a manifestor. Susan Sarandon's a manifestor. I'm trying to think of like different, celebrities that are manifestors. But they're truly here to initiate and inform. And they're not self-themed. So when manifestors when their energy is out of alignment, their not self-themed goes to anger. Doesn't mean they don't get frustrated or bitter or disappointed or anything like that, but their like default is anger. So they will go into that anger place. So those are the second type, those are manifestors. Now we have a third type. Yeah, go ahead.
What is their authority then?
Oh, yes. So their authority, they can have multiple authorities. So they can have a splenic authority, they can have an emotional authority, or they can also have an ego authority, and which is like heart and ego. And what's interesting, what makes a manifestor is that they have a direct channel to a motor center. And again, I would have to do this in like a presentation to where I could actually show you, but they don't have a defined sacral center in their human design, and they have a direct channel to a motor center to their throat. So that whether that could be, from the spleen up to the throat, or from the spleen to the ego up to the throat, it just continuous definition or circuit, if you will, is what they call in human design. And I know this may sound like a lot of information, and it is. That's why I always tell people, like, reach out, if you want to if you're curious to learn more, like definitely reach out to me, because I can go very, very detailed and very granular. So you'll have to kind of pull me back and be like, okay, hang on. Like, let's go from there. So yes, they can have multiple different authorities. And yeah, it kind of depends on like where their activation is in their chart, but you'll be able to see once you pull it. So those are, go ahead. Did you have a question?
Nope, that was good.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So then the third type is basically a hybrid between the generator and the manifestor, and they're called manifesting generators. And what that means is that they are literally the bridge between the two. And that makes up about 25% of the population. Because generators and manifestors are so different, manifesting generators are the ones that bridge the gap. So when it comes to their signature, it's about satisfaction and peace. Doesn't mean that it has to be like both at once. It's just like experiencing, one and not the other, but you can have them both at the same time. Just being mindful of it as a manifesting generator is super, super important. I would say the main difference between, the bridge between the two is that manifesting generators move really quickly through things, which is great. So they can move through, and they're multi-hyphenate people. They have multiple passions, multiple things going on. Most of the time people, like, if you know human design and you met me, they're like, oh, you must be a manifesting generator. And I'm not. I'm actually a pure generator. I'm a pure sacral generator, which makes sense. And again, more for another time. But manifesting generators move through things really, really quickly. So they could have had like multiple different jobs, or they could have, multiple different types of programs that may have, different pathways here and there, and they move through things really, really quickly. The challenge at times with manifesting generators is that they miss details. They're kind of like manifesting generators can collapse time to move through certain things. And sometimes they may have to go back because they miss some details because they're moving so quickly through space and time. If that makes sense. Okay. So that's the third type. Okay. And again, same kind of authorities there within the manifesting generator, or the generators and the manifestors. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth type is what we have is called a projector. Now projectors, right? So I mentioned the generators have these big enveloping, big massive auras. Manifestors have the repelling aura, Moses in the Red Sea. Projectors have this aura that is very focused and penetrating as well, but it's very much centered in the front, like the focus on the front side of their body. And projectors are literally here to guide the energy of the universe. They are the seers. They have the ability to see things that we don't necessarily always see. So in business, I always say it's great to have a manifestor and a projector around, because projectors can give you insights that manifestors and generators may not always see. Projectors are here as a strategy. So I mentioned all the strategies. Generators here to respond, manifestors here to inform and initiate. Projectors are here to wait for the invitation. That means like truly wait to speak until you're asked, right? Or invited into a particular discussion. Because what happens sometimes with projectors, again, projecting, right? Mm-hmm. They can overdo it to someone that's not necessarily receiving their information. So it's really, really important for projectors to wait for someone to invite them into a discussion or to invite them in to have a conversation about something, because once they do and they open their mouth, then it's just like a fluid stream of consciousness, and it's powerful. It's very, very powerful. Most projectors, they're truly here to guide the energy of the universe. Like, so I'll give you some celebrity projectors. Barack Obama, Maya Angelou, who are oh my goodness, I just lost my train of thought. So the main difference I'll say with like projectors is that they have this, like, it's almost this groundedness. They're very poised. Like there's a lot of poise in projectors. And again, they see things that not everybody sees. So the more that they take an observational approach to kind of what's going on, people will then naturally like come to them. They have this aura that's like, okay, they know what I need to know, and I don't know how, or I don't know why, but they know what I need to know. And then you can ask them, and then literally, like, projectors, if you invite them into a discussion or have a conversation about something, like, they will start clicking boxes, aligning energy, and things happen. There's a lot of projectors, like projectors are great leaders because they have this calm resonance. Makes up about 20% of the population, which is a fair amount. And yeah, projectors are incredible in business because they can see things that sometimes that generators and manifestors cannot see, which I'll talk a little bit more about what that means here in a minute. Okay. But the signature, so I talked about the signature between the manifestor and the generators and manifesting generators. The signature for a projector is all about experiencing success. So when the projector is in alignment, they're experiencing success. They feel success. They're feeling successful. They're like, that's when their energy is most aligned. Now, as I mentioned, there's also the not self theme, right? Yes. So the not self of a projector is actually bitterness. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't get angry or they don't get, frustrated or disappointed or anything of that nature. Their default is to get bitter. They will get bitter. And that oftentimes happens if they've spoken before they've been invited, and it's not being well received or landing well to someone. Just to give you a little like this is like makes perfect sense. So my mom is a projector.
Okay.
And before I learned about human design, I love my mother dearly. I love her to death. She's not on social media, so she probably won't even see this. I love her to death. She's a projector. She always has insights before it's invited. Always has something to say before you've invited that in, right? And it's not a bad thing. And I actually laugh about it. It's become very humorous in our family because my mom always has something to say about, I mean, she's a medical doctor. She's, a plumber. She's an electrician. She's done all these things. And to be fair, she's also learned through the years a lot about this kind of stuff because my dad wasn't very handy. My dad was a dentist. And so my dad's like, oh, my hands, like I can't be super handy. So my dad didn't really work on the house. So my mom like learned all these things, but I say this because projectors, oftentimes they can over deliver something and it just may not be well received or land. An authority. So the authorities for the projectors, there's a lot of different authorities that projectors can have. Projectors can have an emotional authority.
Okay.
And I won't go into super details because it'll take forever to go through the different authorities, but they can have an emotional authority. They can have an ego, heart authority. They can have a mental authority, which is all about like having a sounding board of information and hearing their voice. Environmental authority. So there's a couple different authorities that projectors can have, and they're very, very specific. But in the essence of time, I will scale that back. I do some rooms in Clubhouse, and I do a couple Magic Mondays. I do like the free Zoom for people to ask questions about human design and that sort of thing. I will not be doing it this Monday for some personal reasons, but definitely can check that out whenever you can find me. But yeah, so projectors, like I said, signature is all about experiencing success, and then their not self-theme is that bitterness when things are not necessarily well received. And I would say if you're a projector and you're waiting for, a lot of times you're like, oh my God, I'm just waiting for the invitation. You're not waiting. In the process of waiting, what's really important for a projector to do is immerse themselves in creative activities, whether that's like going for a hike or, I don't know, painting, drawing, journaling, something that gets their energy cycling is really, really powerful. What's another thing that's really interesting, and I don't often mention this, but I'm actually doing a course right now on human design energetics, and I'll be doing another course around business energetics with this. But when we start to understand how our energy moves based on our type, our profile, which you'll learn about here in just a second, and a few other things within human design, you can start to see how you best also work throughout the day. Manifestors and projectors are not meant to work continuously. So whereas you and I literally, like Amy, you and I can like go hours, right? And hours without eating, drinking, peeing, like all the things. When we're doing something that we love, we can literally go hours without and none of that, right? Like we can just keep going. We have a sustained energy. Manifestors and projectors, they can't. They go through cycles and they literally have to have their rest. So like if you're a projector or a manifestor and you're working in a 9 to 5, you're probably likely really angry and really bitter because you're constantly feeling like you have to work 9 to 5, which you're not meant to. And I'm not saying that generators are meant to work 9 to 5.
Right.
But projectors and manifestors, especially, they're meant to work in cycles. So like take 2 hours, work, and then take a rest, and then work, and then take a rest, and then work and take a rest. And the difference is you can also start to see in sleep cycles. So with generators are like a battery. Like I can go all day, and as soon as I'm done and I sleep, and I sleep hard. Generators, more often than not, are really good sleepers, deep sleepers. And if you track it like I do,
Yes.
you can start to see how that shows up for you. So I say all of that because there's so many powerful tools you can start to leverage within human design into understanding who you are, how your energy moves throughout your whole body and your circuits, because it is very different based on your type. So those are the projectors. I kind of go all over the map. So hopefully you can kind of stay in that space. I'm very feminine in my essence with this. The fifth type, the final type within human design, is what we call a reflector. And a reflector literally makes up less than 1% of the population. Reflectors, so when you pull your human design chart, I'm happy to send you a link where people can pull a free chart. You can go to Jovian or humandesignamerica.com, or Jovian Archives is a good one to pull your chart. When you pull your chart, you're going to see shapes that are colored in and some lines that are colored in, and some are maybe red, some may be black, all that sort of thing. You'd be like, what the heck does this mean? Reflectors, if you're a reflector, it means you have all white shapes. All of your centers, what we call they're 9 centers, all of your centers are white. And again, makes up less than 1% of the population. Reflectors, their strategy is to wait a lunar cycle. Now, this doesn't mean that they have to wait like 28 days for every decision that they make in their life, because that would be crazy. What's important though for them is to see and feel how certain decisions, or energies that are coming into their vortex feel throughout their entire 28-day cycle. Because once they start to learn and they build that kind of that muscle of understanding, that's when they're meant to make decisions. Reflectors are so beautiful. Reflectors are literally here to reflect the energy of the environment. They are literally here to reflect the energy of what's going on, and they can be incredible leaders and guides for us to see what we're not seeing. Right? A lot of healers, coaches, that sort of thing. A celebrity that you guys all may know that's a reflector is Sandra Bullock. She's a reflector. And what's interesting is reflectors, and as you start to get to know reflectors, like they kind of have just this like essence about them that you're kind of just like mesmerized and you don't know why. Like they have this like mesmerizing energy, and I still haven't quite pinpointed exactly what it is. Teal Swan is also a reflector. If you guys know who that is. And I will just tell you, like the reflectors, they can be like, it can sometimes feel like, I wish I had more defined centers, or I wish I had this. Reflectors are so beautiful because they are truly here to give us an understanding of what we're experiencing in our environment. They're so powerful and pivotal in our transformation. And reflectors, as I mentioned, their signature is all about experiencing surprise. So feeling surprised by what comes up for them. So kind of similar to a projector in the sense that like, when projectors want to give out their information and like people are well received, they're experiencing success. When reflectors reflect back energy and they see it being taken on in their environment, they are surprised by it. And so like they have this like element of surprise that like really lives in their energetic body, where that just creates this really powerful synergy of their energy. And their not self, for a reflector to be in their not self, they experience this disappointment. Again, doesn't mean that they don't get angry or bitter or frustrated. It just means their initial response is disappointment. Okay. When they're not living in that like surprise element of things. So those are the 5 types within human design. Now, I say all this because that's like the basis of everything. Mm-hmm. Now, when we go even deeper, another layer deeper, when we start to look at the different centers, each energy, there are 9 centers. And in human design, this is really interesting. We moved from 7 center beings to 9 center beings in 1781. Okay, which is really weird.
Yeah, specific year.
Yeah, right. And apparently, according to Robert Hu, and he passed on, he transitioned on, and he's had some really powerful predictions over the years, and all of his predictions have come true. And according to Ra and this whole system of human design, mm-hmm. He believes, it's been said that we're going to move from 9 center beings to 11 center beings in 20 2027, which is 5 years from now.
Okay.
And so one of the biggest pieces of human design, this is just kind of a little big piece here, is understanding our life purpose. When we're living our life purpose, our energy is in alignment. We'll experience our signature, satisfaction, peace, success, surprise, whatever it is. And it's also been said that if you're not living in your aligned purpose by 2027, you're going to kind of miss the window. Now, and I'm like, well, how's that true for people that are younger and like all this kind of stuff? I'm just the messenger. I'm open for discussion and debate on this, but my mentors that I work with in human design and like that I continue to learn from, and I also teach people human design, that's been set. So it's going to be really, really, really important for you to figure out who the heck you are, align to it, love it, appreciate it, and then give it out to the world, because it's all about like experiencing that and like giving that out to the world, like being of service. We're truly here to help each other, to support each other. And when this transition happens in 2027, it's going to be a dramatic shift in our livelihood. And I think we're actually already seeing that right now with like what's going on in Canada and a lot of some of the systems breaking down. And again, I won't even go into that right now. But I think that's where community and tribe and understanding like who you are and where you kind of fit into the fold is going to be super, super important. And so I bring that up and I want to talk about this, especially with your chart. So Amy, I had the great fortune of looking at your chart and I was like, oh, this is so fun because this is like really exciting. So when I do a deep dive, like we're not going to go super deep dive into this today because we just don't have enough time for it. But when I go deep dive, like there'll be certain things I'll be able to pinpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really take this from an intuitive perspective and I'm going to go through based on what I see in your chart. Am I able to share my screen on here?
Sure, you should be able to. And
I think it might actually be good just to even just like share.
let me
if you're able
make sure you're co-host. There we go.
I'm able to. Okay, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, awesome. So, there we go. Okay, so.
Now we just see half of it. For some reason it went to half.
Oh, how about now?
There we go. Now we're good.
Okay, it's just because of the screen. So we'll just do it this way. Okay, cool. So as I mentioned, right, this is what a human design chart looks like. Now, you are a generator because this is your sacral and this is colored in. Now you see all these different lines. These are, all these different lines. Some of them are open, some of them are defined. When you see a color, that's called definition. When you see that one of these centers, so these 9 centers, so the top is the crown.
Okay.
This one is the ajna, the upside down triangle. The next one, this is the throat. This is all about where your communication centers are. And what's really powerful before I keep going is once like you start to understand like these different gates, so you'll see these different numbers within these charts, they are correspondent to these columns here. So you see your design here on the left, and you see your personality here on the right. Okay. Now, the design here on the left is an imprint, basically takes your birthday and 88 days before you were born and gives us an understanding of what was going on energetically in the planets. This is like your subconscious. I always look at the design as like your subconscious mind. Your body is representative of the design. And then you have your personality, which is up here over here on the right. The right is the personality, and that's all about your conscious mind. So it's all like understanding your personality. You have much more awareness of where you are in the personality side than maybe you do on the design side. Okay. And again, we were going to go a lot deeper into this. I would explain more about that, but for this is kind of how it'll shake out today. So with that, all of these numbers here have a number and then a decimal point and then another number. And the number on the left-hand side is 1 through 64. So there's 64 gates. Doesn't mean that we're all going to tap into all the 64 gates, but they're representative of the 64 codons in the I Ching. And again, when you look at genetics, I mean, everything's numbers at the end of the day. Like when you look at, it's just fascinating. And then the number to the right of it, to the right of the decimal point, is what we call a line. And there's the numbers between 1 through 6, and each line means something different. And it also means something different based on the gate in which it's reflected in. However, I will tell you, each gate represents something else, like something different. And each line represents something different, but the lines have a theme. And I'll explain to you what that means in just a little bit when I talk about your profile. So anyway, back to the centers. Each of these centers have gates. Some of them are defined, some of them are open. Where you see white here, like gate 16, that's open. That's an open gate. Where you see 62 is defined, you've got a color here and a color here, you've got a black and a color. That means you have some definition. Okay, so that means you have natural energy that naturally, like you can pull on that energy anytime you need.
Okay.
And once you start to understand where these like what they mean with these energy centers, it's really, really powerful. So we have the throat center. This is our center of manifestation. G center. This is our center of self-identity, direction, as well as this is like our magnet, like where this is like our center pole of like being the magnet. This is where we draw people to us. Right here, this small little triangle over here to the right is called the ego and the heart. This is our where we find our motivation. It's our ego center. It's where we find our will to get up and go in the world and in life. Our sacral center, our beautiful sacral center. Over here to the right is our solar plexus. This is where our emotions lie. All of our emotional center, our solar plexus. Over here to the left, this is our spleen. Spleen is all about intuition and there's a lot of, there can be at times fear, overcoming fear, that survival instinct through our spleen. And then we also have here down the root. The root is again, so our crown and our root are both pressure centers. So those are all, and think of those as almost like pulsing. So the root center is almost like a pulsing energy. Okay. And it's a pressure center, and it's, even if it's defined or undefined, it's a pressure center. And it's where we, like if you're defined in the root, like I am, we have this conscious awareness of like time always. If you're undefined in the root, there can be this feeling of needing security or needing groundedness, and really grounding yourself to the earth. It can be really, really prominent for someone with an undefined or open root center. And I won't go into the main details of that right now because I want to get into like some of the specifics, but
sure.
So when we look at these numbers, these gates and all of this, we have what's called a profile. And when we live our profile, we live in alignment with our energy. Our profile is how people experience us in the world. And actually, I'll just kind of talk this through. We don't need our chart anymore. So when we live our profile, we live our energy, and our energy becomes in alignment. And one of the things you can start to see is understanding within our profile. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry. I did have my do not disturb on. I don't know why that's coming on. Anyway, so when we look at our profile is how people see us, how people view us. It's also how people, how we show up energetically. And it's really fascinating because we have, each of those profiles are comprised of 2 numbers. You are a 3-5, which means and how you can take these numbers is basically from your person. It's the first 2 numbers on your personality side on the right-hand side of the decimal point, and the first 2 on your design side, which is the 5 on the right-hand side of the decimal point. So you have a 3-5, and there's 6 lines. So I'm just going to go through the 6 lines so you have an understanding of kind of what they are. And then I'll tell you who you are, and then I'll tell you what it is. Okay. So your profile is a 3-5. Okay. So what does this mean? So as a 3-5, the 3 line is like the scientist. Okay. It's all about, it's this trial and error energy, right? You go through life and you're literally like bumping into things. And then you're literally here to bring, like bump into things, explore, be the scientist, and then report back to other people, right? Like, you're literally like the queen of trial and error. And at times, if you're not living in alignment or living in your signature of satisfaction, you can start to experience, you might be thinking like, gosh, I've made so many mistakes, right? If you're like, oh, I've just made so many mistakes, because this 3 line is very much bumping into life. Like it constantly bumps into life. But it's meant to do that because you have, and we as 3 lines, because I have a 3 in my profile on the subconscious side. So you and I are very aligned in that regard. And we're also very drawn. So even if you and I had different types, because our profiles are the same, we would actually be more similar in profile than we would just because we're both generators. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, the 3 line, again, scientist, trial and error, bumping into things. The 3 line has to carry a lot of humor with it, because we bump into things, and we have to try certain things on, but it's really up to us to like experiment with it and then bring it to the collective, like truly bring that information, that knowledge out to the collective. Sometimes the 3 line, especially when you have it in your conscious space and your personality. So my 3 line, I'm a 1-3, you're a 3-5. When you have this in your conscious space, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to figure things out when it's not always you that needs to figure it out.
Got it.
How true is that?
Very.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. So when you look at, when you're maybe finding yourself frustrated or feeling like you have to figure out all these different like details, or figure out the way, like you have to be the scientist, you have to be the one, step back and get back into your authority, right? Check in with yourself, have someone like, even you can, this is one of the things about sacral generators. You need to have someone that you can call and ask you a question, because as sacral generators, we're not meant to ask ourselves the question. We're actually meant to have someone else ask it. So if I'm making a big decision, I will literally call one of my friends and I'll be like, hey, can you ask me this? And because I need to listen to my sacral. Yeah. And they will ask me in a very monotone way. And then I'll listen to the response of my sacral. It's really, really powerful. Really, really powerful. So that's really the 3 line. It's like exploring, experimenting. Oh, it's also very in the material world. So when you have a lot of when you have a 3 in your profile and you have a lot of 3s in your like design or in your human design in the 64 gates, you're literally meant to have like multiple pathways of like income. So it's really important for 3 lines to have be in multiple things, especially when it comes to income and money. Okay. So I'm going to be doing a business course on this, like leveraging human design and like how to like support yourself from a sales perspective, how like things to energetically tap into what's meant for you, like what's right and the way you deliver a message and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be working on that in the next couple of like weeks after my next course ends. But that being said, that's the 3 line. The 5 line in your chart. Now this is really fun. So the 5 line in your chart is like, it's the hero. We also call it the heretic. It naturally draws people to, like, people are naturally drawn to this 5 line because you guys have this ability to offer solutions. And it's very much a mentoring energy. So like, you're like really strong at mentoring people, and that like the way I kind of look at its difference. So when I'll talk about all the lines here in just a second, but just for contrast, the 6th line is all about teaching and like being kind of this like role model teacher where they kind of move through people and they're not meant to like have them come back. You're meant to like be supportive advocate with someone and kind of walk them through their journey. So like people continually coming back to you, which makes sense in the line of work that you do. Yeah. Right. And the breath and everything. I mean, your breath work is by far a little tangent there, like so freaking amazing. And like, literally, I never thought breathing through a straw would be so peaceful. And learning how to actually breathe, like truly, it's so unbelievably powerful. Anyway, I say that little caveat. So yeah, this 5th line, this heretic, but one of the pieces of the heretic, you're literally here to disrupt the norm. Like you're here to disrupt the way we're doing things. And that can be, and that sounds very vague and broad, and it is a little bit. But I say that because heretics are here to kind of break down the barrier of the way we've been doing things, right? Interrupt a pattern. They also have the ability to really, they're beautiful delegators. They have the ability to see things and delegate really well. I always like to use this as an analogy of like, if you're in, you know, like the movie theater and like the fire alarm goes off, you're the one that like people are turning to and being like, okay, you go here, you go here, you go here, you go here, and you have it all figured out because you have this like system in place and you just kind of know. Does that make sense?
It does, because I know personally when someone wants me involved in their project, I usually ask them a million questions so I understand the whole thing. It's like, because I love puzzles. I love to put pieces together.
Yes.
And so once I get the whole picture, I can figure out how exactly it should be done.
Oh my gosh, this makes, okay. So and I was just about to talk about this actually. So you have, in human design, we have what's called cognition, and I'm not going to like, I won't go into the nitty gritty details of it, but like for instance, mine is taste. So it's all about understanding taste of like taste in the environment, taste in aesthetic, taste in how I show up, taste in like it's almost like a style, like almost like a style of which your cognition is outer vision. Okay. And it's literally about putting the puzzle pieces together. Like literally like being able to see, right? And this is literally, you understand what needs to happen to break cycles and to open up new opportunities. Literally, like you have the ability to see that. It's very similar to a projector. So there's something in your chart that has that projecting energy. And once you get really deep into human design, you can start to like literally map out your channels and your lines to see, are they generated? Are they manifested? Or are they projected? And based on those, you'll start to see like why you are a certain type or how you're meant to show up in that kind of energy. I mean, it's so, so powerful.
Wow.
Your body is energetically, your body is so magnetic as a heretic. And again, just based on your composition, your profile, people are naturally drawn to you. Also as a generator, you have that, but there's this innate wisdom that people are drawn to because they know that you have a lot of certainty because you've been the scientist, right? You've done the work and you're here to literally break down the paradigm, like really shift the paradigm of way people are doing things. And that obviously through the breath, like that's I don't know anybody else is teaching what you are.
Yeah.
And that style.
Yep. It definitely, I mean, people always say it's very counterintuitive. It goes against everything they've ever said. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah. And that's literally, and that's the heretic within you, which is like so freaking cool. Like so amazing. Let me see if I have, I'm going to pull this back up. Okay.
A few more minutes.
Yes, I do. So I apologize. I get so excited.
I know, it's just fun.
And if you have any questions, like please feel free to like ask me certain questions or anything to that nature. One of the things and this is part of your incarnation cross. So we all have, like I mentioned, a life purpose. Your incarnation cross is literally has the energy of being well provided for. So you're always going to have like the resources at your disposal. You're always going to like, literally, even if you don't have the resources right now, they just magnetically will come to you. Like they just automatically come to you. Literally your thought could be the signal that sends it out. And then you just have this powerful ability to draw the right resources to you. And at times though, you may have the overly committed yes syndrome, where you can overly commit yourself to where then you overexert yourself and then you burn out and then you have to recharge and then have to go through that whole cycle, if you will. It's really important for your type and especially in your incarnation cross, like this is your life purpose, is when you make a commitment, like making that commitment, but doing it with your strategy and authority, because that keeps you from getting overcommitted. People are drawn to your experiences because of your ability to synthesize and break things down in a very digestible fashion. And it's important for you to always check in with yourself spiritually, like at a soul level, like and doing the things that light you up at the soul level. And what that means is like taking time to have introspection, right? Creating that space, whether that's through being in nature, meditation, journaling, whatever it is, like it's going to be really, really important for you to have like that time where you synthesize and cultivate kind of that inner genius that you have. Because you found your purpose, your mission, you have that. Right. And it's going to continue to build based on what I'm seeing in your design. There's also certain aspects in your design that I can start to see based on your genetic makeup around, are you meant to be an entrepreneur? What's your business culture like? All of that kind of stuff. And as I show you this, I'm not going to show you. I'll just tell you. But we have this what's called desk work, if you will. It's like, what is our core stability, or what are we meant to do in our like 9 to 5? Your desk work is, we can find this in our design Mars. It's gate 62, line 3, which is all about strategy. And that strategy is 62. So 62 is all about speaking the details into a system, right? Creating that system. You have this ability of like, you're kind of like an esoteric translator. Like you have the ability to take the bigger picture, synthesize it down to make it much more digestible. It's kind of like the puzzle piece, but that's literally what you're meant to do in like your core stability. And when you're doing that, right, with the breath work, right, like being able to distill it down in such an easily digestible fashion. Yes. We can also start to see like, how do you best express yourself in business and in culture, like in the work environment that you work in. That's in gate 48 and in line 1. Line 1 means you're meant to be an entrepreneur. Like you're truly meant to be an entrepreneur. Your gate 48, this is all about being in your spleen. So this is like, you have this well of knowledge, this depth that people are naturally drawn to. People look at you as a resource of knowledge and information, and they always have. And like, you will know things and you don't even really understand why you know them, but you have this like capacity to like hold incredible space, hold incredible depth and incredible knowledge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is incredible. We have like a minute left to wrap up. I am so sorry, but I want to learn more, but we're a little bit short on time.
I know.
So obviously this is great information, and I can see how you can use it to help other people and apply it to their life, their business. So obviously getting just your design chart is not enough. So how do people reach you? How do people work with you?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways. So I always tell people, go pull your chart, go to jovian.com, go to Human Design America, go pull your chart. You can contact me at highenergykc.com. I'm on Instagram at I am Katie Carlson, or you can find me on Facebook as well. I think I sent you some links. I don't know if you've got them, but you can find me. But my main website is highenergykc.com. Reach out to me. I love connecting with people on human design. I do one-on-ones. I also have a group that I'm doing right now. It's called Human Design Energetics. And I'm basically, because I've been so overly inundated with one-on-ones, I was like, I have to scale this until it makes more sense for people to digest this information, to where I can get it out to more people and explore and what that looks like for them in life and in business. Because once you align your energy, you guys, you'll have more energy to give, right? And you can start to live that and experience that. And so I have a human design energetics course that I'm doing right now. We've got about 3 more weeks, but you can join at any time. If you go to humandesinenergetics.com, you can join there. It will become an evergreen course, and I will be launching some other courses around business and how to implement it in your business, surrounding yourself with the types of people that make sense and that sort of thing. Because you guys, when your energy is aligned, you are a magnet for what you desire, and we're constantly creating all the time. So
absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us today. Please reach out to Katie. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.